Welcome to Business Notes. I'm your host, Diane Bogino. Our guest today is Sharon Marrell, a successful, forward-thinking entrepreneur who owns several successful businesses, including a local restaurateur and a music academy. As a music teacher with over 4 decades of experience, Sharon has educated people of all ages on the art of music. Through music, Sharon realized that a spoken language that incorporates characteristics of the art of music can empower people to achieve success and strengthen the power to connect with others. The vocal powerhouse formula is where she shares the nuances of voice with speakers, top influencers, and salespeople to be powerful and persuasive when connecting to their audience. Here's Sharon to share her secrets on how we can be more powerful and persuasive. Sharon, welcome to Business Notes, and thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, thank you, Diane. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to be with you. We've shared some times in the VRS group, but I've been wanting to get more into what you do because I find it fascinating. Why should people think about working on their voice, and what benefit do they get from doing that?
The thing is, with your voice, it is a way that you emotionally connect with people. And what people don't realize is that the vibrations of your voice are bouncing off the other person. And that's where the connection comes in. So it's so important to be able to make that connection quickly. And also just even in a general setting with friends, family, to deepen your relationships just by through making subtle changes to your voice is so important and benefits you all around.
So what are the 5 vocal power drivers, and why are they important?
The 5 vocal power drivers are melody, pace, pitch, tone, and volume. And those 5 elements are things that we can take and use with our voice to really create that connection I was talking about. So when you use each of these, and you don't have to think about all of them at the same time, they interact together, but you can take single ones and even just try them out to make a difference in how you sound.
Let me ask you this. What is it about your voice that would cause someone to not take you seriously?
Some people, it can be as simple as your voice could be too high. Say for women, if they have a really high voice, a lot of people won't take them seriously because they might sound too young or sound like a little kid. And they have a problem being able to, say, work with teams at work, talking with people and having things be done because they aren't being taken seriously. Other people, it could be, say, your voice is very low, say a male voice. If you're speaking low all the time, then you can come off as sounding angry. So there's a lot of variations inside of what can happen. You can have your voice can be monotone, because actually 85% of the world is monotone. So they use only 1 to 3 different tones in their voice. And that can become very monotonous and become boring for people to listen to. And people will tune out if your voice is just going to stay on the same note all the time and just keep going like that. So the best thing you could do, even for something like that, if you feel that you have that type of monotone voice, is to add more melody. And when you add more melody, what happens is you actually instantly sound happier. There's one bonus right there, just by adding melody, is you can sound much happier when you're conversing with people.
Sharon, that's a good point about sounding happy, because what is it the studies say, that people who have a more optimistic viewpoint are more successful?
Right. Yeah, that's true. And just the all around benefits of feeling more happy and positive just brings even more to you in the end, all around. So yeah, it's a great benefit.
And are there like common voice types that you hear?
Yes, there are. There's different types that we consider. One is nasal sounding. So people who talk more through the nose, and that's more due to the air just getting trapped in your mouth, because some people, will talk with their mouth closed, mostly closed, and their teeth together. And so the air is not escaping through the mouth. So the only place it can go is through the nose. So you can have a nasal sound. You can have what we call more of a blocked nasal. And think about when you have a really bad head cold. That's the sound that you might hear. And then additionally, there's people who have very airy voices. So if they're always talking airy like this, it's sometimes hard to command a room that way. So you've got different things like that. And another one is what we call the vocal fry. People are familiar with that. And that's one of mine that I identify with. Vocal fry is when you, especially at the end of the sentence, you might die away and you sound crackly like this. And you have people who choose, some actors who choose to have that sound all the time. And all that is a lack of air. You run out of air at the end of your sentences or at a comma, and you end up losing the vibrations in the vocal cords so that they just die away. So the fix for that is to just push more air through the vocal cords and take breaths sooner.
You know, that makes another good point, Sharon. Not only do people's voices die down, but I notice younger generations, and particularly women, their voice will go up when they say something. And I think that's another reason they're not taken seriously. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I would. That is something where, and we could call that slight vowel speak is what they call that, where it goes up like that. And there is a proper use of that little uplift that you can use. But yes, when you have the people going up all the time and that big slide, that can be annoying and distracting and sounds like they're always asking questions, where you can actually use that little bit of uplift if you're a person who is always, say, being interrupted. Because what happens is when people get to a period where we're told to go down when we're done, right? So if we go down at the end of the sentence, we're also telling people that, okay, I'm done. It's your turn to talk. So if people just stay on the same note as they continue talking and at the commas and say at the periods, they can keep the people engaged and wanting to listen to them. And at the point where you're ready to stop and you're done with your thought, then you can go down. But either keep it on the same note or go up just a little, just slightly, not much at all. And then you aren't sounding like the person who's got the vowel speak and asking the question. So there is an appropriate way to do that. Yes.
And speaking of high and low voices, sometimes people do get into a squeaky voice. What causes that and how can they overcome that?
That all has to do, again, with not enough air. You're constricting the air. You're not breathing correctly. So the thing is, when you breathe in, your stomach should be coming out. That's the feeling you should have. And when you're talking, your stomach should be coming inwards as you let the air out. So if you have that continuous push the air out, then you're going to have enough support on the vocal cords. Most people too, if it's starting to squeak, you're probably tightening your stomach muscles up like this. And you're not breathing correctly. So you tighten those muscles up. And so then you're going to sound squeaky. So it's that tightening of really all the body parts. Probably you're getting stressed out.
Yeah, the stress. I suppose that's what causes that. So we need to learn to be calmer if we're in a stressful situation.
Yeah, relax.
Yeah, relax. All right. I've had people tell me they've gotten laryngitis. They go to the doctor and the doctor says, okay, don't talk for a week or whatever. And people don't take that seriously. Is that dangerous?
Well, if you have laryngitis and it's not due to, say, a medical condition, sore throat, anything like that, because there's, say, a lot of speakers might speak for a long time and they start to lose their voice. The one thing that you can especially do, well, one thing not to do is don't whisper, because you get told, oh, I have to whisper because I have laryngitis. Whispering will hurt you even more, because you're actually taking air past the vocal cords and you're drying them out and making them even redder and more swollen. So if you have laryngitis, if you're not able to talk, just don't whisper, but be sure to make sure you're drinking a lot of water. And the water does have to be absorbed to get to the areas of the vocal cords and the organs and the tissues and everything. But if you continuously do that, that will do you better than anything else. And yes, not talking, that certainly is going to help. But I think that people take that as, well, I should whisper then. So if you're going to not talk, then don't talk. That certainly will relax the vocal cords. Be sure you're drinking plenty of water. And we're not talking other like caffeine, other liquids. It really truly is the water that can help. And then there are certain exercises that you can do to relieve and actually get your voice back. So there are special exercises that you can do where you're speaking, like, if you can, for those of you who remember Yogi Bear, if you speak like this, hey boo boo, and you do some vocal exercises, and we do some vocal exercises that take us up and down using that voice, that actually relaxes it and can bring your voice back. So those are exercises I'll teach people to do to help them get their voices back.
Okay, I have a new title for you, Sharon the Voice Doctor, okay?
Okay.
So, Sharon, what is the best techniques you could tell people today to start helping them get their voices into a better shape?
I would first say, make a recording of your voice. And I call that your baseline. Read a couple sentences out of a book, or tell a little story of where you've been lately, something that you've done lately. And then what you're going to do is just take melody and say volume and pace, those three: melody, volume, and pace, and play around inside of that little snippet that you just recorded. Re-record it and try that. When I talk about melody, we're talking about ascending and descending sounds, going up the stair steps and coming back down. That would probably, you would see the most difference using melody. And then, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, when we're talking about commas and periods, those are times when we can stop for a moment, and we're talking about pacing there. And then continuing on, because you have to give your listener time to process what you're saying. So many people just go, blah, 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 and after a while, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so much, I can't even follow it anymore. And you tune out. So you have to let your listener process what you're saying. And we're talking a split second. It's not long, but it's enough because our brains can do, billions of pieces a second. So you use the pacing inside of that, slow it down sometimes. You can speed it back up, have little pauses, rest at moments inside of what you're saying. And that can make a huge difference. And then again, whether you're speaking loudly or softly, depending on the mood. If I'm happy, I'm going to be a little bit louder. I'm going to get a little louder. My pace is going to get a little faster. And my melody is going up and down a lot. But if I'm grateful about something, now I don't have as much melody. My volume is down a little bit. And I've slowed the pace down some too. And some of my words and my syllables are a little more elongated. So those are two examples of how you can play with that. And if you can start hearing that difference in the recordings and then take it out and use it with other people, it'll be amazing. You'll start to see, people will start to notice, and they'll say things. They might say things like off the wall, like, oh, did you, you look a little different. Did you get a haircut or something? What that just means is they're actually looking into your eyes and they are actually now listening to you. You've got their attention, which you're like, yes, I've done it, you know. So those are just the little transformations. It's just subtle, small, quick fix changes that make all the difference.
Well, and now, Sharon, you probably coach individually, but you also speak to groups. What are your favorite groups to speak with?
Well, I think associations, say like Toastmasters, that type of group is great. I like talking to them. Any associations that really have even corporations, teams that they have to communicate with each other. Those are the types of people that I like working with, and I've enjoyed having them transform their relationships with their voice and then with their teams. So that's where kind of I really kind of thrive in working, especially with groups, because I think that makes the biggest difference.
Oh yeah, that communication. That's certainly a big piece of that for sure. And I guess when people go to your website, you've got information about your vocal power drivers and your formula.
Yes, and when you actually go to the homepage, you can right away see, you can download it's a free guide. It's the vocal power driver method. So you can learn about those 5 vocal power drivers, and it's a living document where you can actually then watch some videos, and I change things up in there. So that's a great one to get you started.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
You have brought some good information, certainly for business owners like you and I are entrepreneurs trying to get our message out to people, speakers, salespeople. You brought some good advice and a lot to think about. I know I've got a lot of homework to do, so thanks a lot for that.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for being on the show today, Sharon. I appreciate your time.
You bet. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you for watching Business Notes. We've been speaking with Sharon Marrell, CEO, speaker, and consultant. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, bringing you business ideas you can bank on.